Right, here we are then. So another week, beautiful January, new change, new starts for the year. At least for me, I feel very more on path, So, but yeah, I decided to take the podcast this week, which is I'm Riki Buckingham from England, and I've been working with Mike on some of these things for quite a while now, probably a few years really, and so. Feeling inspired, and feeling like I need to make changes in my life, and feeling very pulled to keep going and not go back into unhealthy patterns in life, So we're going to cover a few topics today, which is to do with minimalism and not spreading yourself too thin, managing your time, having less attachments to addictions and things which hold you back in life. And simplifying, because really everything's got very, very complicated for a lot of people on the planet right now, and we really need that simplicity to help us hear the voice of our spirit, the voice of our heart, and that, which is so important today, because we're pulled around by our emotions, our fears and our worries and all that. So we've got Mike on call today. Can I hear you, Mike? Just check whether you're working or not.
Hey, Ricky, looking fine, mate.
Great, yeah, got you. And we might have Corey phone in and a couple of other people, so we'll see what happens. But you'll get a lot of me talking today, so. So I'll stop here and there, because I'll be doing a bit of deep breathing just to sort of remain balanced, which I think is really, really important. It's really important to slow down, which is actually the message, really. Really, really slow down and take notice of what your heart's saying, Hi Jimmy, how are you doing? I can see your text and that, so I'm not sure whether you want to call in or say anything, but you're welcome to. So there is so much to say, really, so much to say about slowing down, because we've been so driven as a human race for a long time, really, really. And I think it's quite harsh, actually. A lot of the energy behind people can be quite harsh, and it's not really serving humanity very well at the moment, There's a place for that stillness, and I think taking trips into nature, getting away from the normal routine, is definitely part of these changes that are needed at the moment, because it's almost like a vortex for a lot of people. There's this sort of vortex of energy where we're going round and round in the same old, and that's not to be negative with that. It's just an observation, really, and I still get caught in that myself. By no means am I perfect yet, but I still get caught going round and round in the same patterns. So, and a way out of that really is finding what you love, really finding what you love and what inspires you, because the more you get caught in those things, I really think there's a protection in that. Hi sheet metal NY. Alright. So there's a protection in being yourself, and being authentic and not being caught in dogma or so much other people's ideas or ideals, unless they serve you, And I think knowing that and finding out what it is, what is your true voice, and what is just my programming, what are the things that just come from childhood, come from all other unhealthy patterns, So, okay, sheet metal's saying about I need to fix my diet. Okay, yeah, thanks for messaging me about that. Okay, yeah, so yeah, there's so much to say about diet, there really is. I think maybe the words I said sort of, people can see that that's an important thing to me. So yeah, what can we say about that? I mean, from what I've learnt, it's the chemicals, the chemical laden food, you know, the E numbers and all that, which is the most difficult, and they really pull you in, you know, they really pull you in. So okay, I'm not sure whether you're joking, sheet metal guy, or whether you're speaking truth there, but there you go. But I'll keep on about the food since it's come up. Yeah, so basically there is so much rubbish out there that it really gets you caught in. I think it affects your mind, you know, and the way you feel, and stupidity is like number one. The changes that come from eating the rubbish from the system, you know, and nature really has a lot of power to balance us, you know, to get us in balance. And I'm quite interested if anyone knew about the microbiome, the links. Right, I'm just going to mute this guy here because he's obviously taking the piss. Okay, done. You still there, Mike?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I've just muted that guy because I think he's just having a laugh, really. So I don't know if you saw him. Oh, you didn't see him. He was in the chat room there. So yeah, sometimes you get people on Podbeam sort of having a bit of a joke. So that's fine. I'll carry on anyway. So yeah, there's what we're talking about is balance on many levels, because humans have been so you know, out of that state for a long time, really, and I'm still trying to find it. So yeah, talk about fresh air, clear food, you know, food that comes from Mother Earth, because it's infused with the spirit, you know, it's infused with the energy of life, really, you know, and you can't doubt that. You can't. It's really beautiful, really, you know. And then, of course, we've got the EMF frequencies affecting us, and I was talking to Mike recently about that, and he was saying about my time on Facebook, and he was right, you know, he was saying, you know, you spend a lot of time on Facebook. And I think I know so many people are struggling with that. So, and all of these things, they all tie into the word simplicity and living a very minimalist life, because the thing with Facebook is that it is constantly distracting us on many different topics, you know. And the plus with sort of homing it in, you know, who do I want to have on my friends list? You know, are they talking rubbish? Does it mean something to me? Which groups do I join? You know, and really limiting that down to something in which all you're getting is information which really inspires you or is relevant in some way. So I feel like there is a sort of agenda on the planet at the moment to complicate and, you know, split the focus of our minds, you know. And so I really feel with deep breathing and a cleaner diet definitely leads to a more balanced mind, you know, which in a way is minimalism, because what you're doing is you are not feeding yourself so much information. You know, there's power in simplicity, there's power in eating simply, you know, there's power in not having too many pressures in your life, you know, narrowing that all down. There's power in that simplicity. So and the thing is often there's this pull to achieve, you know, there's a pull to be somewhere else than where you are, you know, there's this drive. And I think if we can sort of, as humanity, be okay with what we're feeling, be okay with where we're at, and not need to continuously get away or distract, And I know that's not easy, you know, but there is a simplicity beyond everything. There's a beautiful, beautiful simplicity of life, and that's an energy. It's a beautiful energy. And when we're in that zone, we just know what we need, because we don't have thousands of distractions, thousands of thoughts in our head, you know, pulling us off all over the place, you know. And I feel like there's real value in that at this time on the planet, you know. So it's trying to find the tools and the means, you know, to really do that. I'm lucky that I'm a musician, so I spend a lot of time with the music, which really just gets me into the moment, you know. And I'm learning to not be so bothered about what people think, or, you know, trying to achieve or trying to have an audience even, you know, but to sing to the planet, you know, to sing to the earth, to sing for myself, you know, to make music for myself. So it's all a matter of where our agenda is, you know, what are we trying to achieve, you know, and not being so caught up in desperately trying to achieve it. And in that state, you feel like you're in a state of minimalism. You feel like you're returning to center, and you can be a master of your own energy, you know. So that's basically the setting the tone for this this podcast, really. But we will be talking about many other things. So, do you fancy coming on board, Mike, at all? 1 second there, I just had a little dog. My little dog was trying to come in. Lovely little small dogs we've got here. But yeah, so another thing I wanted to talk about was also the stress, because stress in our modern life is what really ungrounds us. And what makes me want to breathe that, you know, because I want to be able to be with what I'm feeling, you know. You want to be able to be with what you're actually experiencing in life and not be avoiding it. And I think this is where the coffee comes in, you know, the high sugars, the carbs and that, you know, the knocking ourselves out, you know, because ultimately I suppose we want a simple life, you know. We don't want the extra stresses of the pressure that we're having to deal with in modern society, you know. And I know that many people on this path, you know, many people on the spiritual path are struggling with, you know, they're very sensitive. They're very sensitive, so they struggle with, you know. All right, Mike, see you in a bit. You know, a lot of people are struggling with relating to what they're feeling and the overwhelm, you know. And what I want to say is that we don't have to put ourselves under pressure, you know. It seems like we do, you know, and the system, you know, the system wants us to be under pressure because we become wonderful consumers. You know, absolutely wonderful consumers who will buy anything out of inner desperation. And I think, to be honest, that is a real core, important point of life at the moment for humans, is the fact that many are not coping with life, you know, whether you're on a spiritual path or not, you know. I mean, those of us who have sort of to somewhat degree mastered our lives, we know more what we're doing, you know, and we understand the ups and the downs, you know, and we know that when we have a down day, not to get in a total drama about it and get completely pulled off path, you know. But for those that are obviously more lost, we need to have compassion, because it is bloody hard, you know. And to feel like you're a slave to a system like that, you know, you don't want to be here in your life. You know, the soul energy, the true soul energy, doesn't want to be here. So for me in my life, it's all about trying to find, well, what invigorates, you know, what uplifts the soul, what brings you energy. But in order to do that, we've got to find a way to master ourselves within this environment. And I know we all can't get in a perfect environment, you know. I was in London recently, and you know, I was taken in by the energy there, and it felt like a sort of a vortex, you know, of negativity, I suppose, you know. But there were some things that were good, you know. There was great aspects about London, you know. It's multicultural, lots of opportunities, you know. So definitely a lesson there to not throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know. But point being that, you know, we are designed to coexist around nature, around life forms and beings which are in more balance, you know. So I'm not one with the animals so much, but I know that those of us with pets and that, you know, they tend to chill us out, you know. They tend to really relax our nervous system, which is really what it's about, to be honest. It's about being able to slow it all down and get out of that fight flight. And I do think a lot of humans are in fight flight without really knowing it. They don't, because it's become normal, you know. It's become normal to be in that sort of state of reality. I'm very lucky that I'm generally not in it, you know. A couple of pressures here and there during the week, but generally there's this overwhelming sense that the universe is with you, you know. And it is. And I'm here to say that, you know, it is. The universe is on our side. And I strongly feel that we have ancestors and loved ones who, you know, are there with us. So we can feel alone at times, you know, but they are there. So in that sense, when you understand that we are being guided, we are being looked after, you can slow down. You can be not so concerned about where you're going or what you're trying to do, but just take every moment as it comes, you know. And as we know, there's power in the moment, you know. But I mean, I'd love to say that I've mastered all this, you know. I'm getting there. And you know, learning not to distract so much and learning to go within. And sometimes it's pain that's there, you know, in those moments. And sometimes all you've got to do is acknowledge what you feel in that moment, and then you're back on track, and it's like, right, okay. But when you're back on track again, once you've acknowledged something, you're back on track in a better way, you know. You're more whole, you're more strong, you're more embodied, and you know where you're going, you know. So the whole society of numbing out, going unconscious, is self-perpetuating, you know, and it's what's the word? It's rippling out and affecting others. So that's why it's so important to get a more neutral perspective, which is what nature and healthy people in our life do. You know, people who aren't putting us down or aren't, you know, full of their own agendas so much that they can't see the soul in you, you know. So beautiful stuff. So we're in a place of really connecting at a soul level with certain people who really connect with us, you know, people who you just know it, you just know who you need to be around with. And that's another thing with this simplicity. It's not about having thousands of friends or thousands of Facebook friends or whatever. It's about the people that we truly connect with. So that being said, I'll bring Mike on, and so he can talk. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear Mike. If you can't, do let me know, and I will try and sort something else out. But this is a new setup here, so we're in a little bit of trouble this morning, but we'll see. So you're all right then, Mike?
Yeah, well, first of all, well done. That was a beautiful introduction. That's what co-creation is all about, Riki, and sharing from your heart space and not being so much in your head. So well done for that. And I'm really glad that we're sort of, you know, we're mixing it up now, that we're getting into, this is the 26th day of the new, you know, 2020, the new year of immersive thinking, immersive experience. We're not scripted so much anymore, and we're really starting to find our true center. So hi everybody, hope you're all doing well. It's been a tough 7-day cycle, admittedly, and I'm going to talk today about minimalism and the metaform it reflects in our personal rebirth. So what is it? How does it work? And how do you or I embrace it? Well,
sorry, Don't mean to interrupt you, but could you just slightly go back from the mic just a little bit? The audio's choppy apparently. Someone's saying it's going in and out, and I'm just wondering whether, because of the plosives or something, it's knocking it out. So if we just test that a little bit.
Yeah.
Carry on though, yeah.
Okay, so as I said, talking about minimalism and how it's reflected in our personal rebirth.
That's better.
Well, imagine living your life with less. A life of passion, unencumbered by the trappings of the chaotic world around you. So what you're imagining here is an intentional life. Now, it's not a perfect life, and it's not an easy way for many, but it's a simple life, and it makes way for so much more of the higher octaves of your truth to occupy space in an otherwise overcrowded construct that is your beingness. So you actually, by going through the process of decluttering your own physicality and your physical sense of space and environment, you are able to make way and make space for things that you deem to be more important to you. So look at everything you have and answer yourself honestly, do I need it? Is it bringing my life value? Is it intentional for a higher purpose to manifest harmony and happiness? And if not, then let it go. Because this is what the Saturn-Pluto conjunction has shown me personally, day after day after day after day. And now I'm here on our live stream, our weekly 7 Cents live stream, and I can state with conviction that I'm a real fan and that I'm practicing to be a minimalist. Now, right now, you are being supported to do this because you have both the sun and the moon in Aquarius. And it was a new moon in Aquarius last night in the States, and tonight, you know, the 25th in the Southern Hemisphere. So the prayer, the invocation, the intention you can ask for on a double Aquarius moon and sun transit, where there really is no reflection, so it's actually a dark moon, is let me be my real self. So let me repeat that. Let me be my real self. Because Aquarius can't follow, right? It's not in the planet's DNA. So it doesn't ask for permission to do things. It just stays true to its nature. So in the transhuman context, it's stating very clearly that you don't need to ask permission to be weird because you're already fiercely independent. So ask yourself that question for the next 3 days. Let me be my real self. Am I really independent, or am I still stuck in the patterns of listening to and following everybody else's lead?
Yeah.
And this is the conversation that most of the spiritual community refuses to acknowledge and answer. And why? Because it takes you away from the familiar, from the safety and security of what it is you know. Because what you know is that you have been told all your life from day dot that you need to have stuff. Because it allows you to measure your station in this 3D construct against everybody else. So once again, I ask you, where is the independence in that? And I'll go one better. Where is your desire to be interdependent of what you once thought was the way you thought you needed to live?
That's very powerful stuff there, Mike. That's yeah, wow.
Thanks, man.
There's so much to that, but it's simple because it's about having authority, you know, over your own life, you know. And you'd think that would be easy, but you know, the programming does go quite deep, really, doesn't it? So
it certainly does.
But you've been finding over the last couple of years that you're really, or finding so many illusions, you know, but actually breaking free of them and finding your own way through the maze, and you know, the clarity that comes. You know, how do you feel with the clarity now that you feel in your life? You know, feeling more sort of on path with all that. You know.
Well, the clarity brings bliss. You can live a blissful life by being in a state of clarity, by understanding that the challenges that is we, remember, is the we are, right? We draw in the breath, right? The expression, we draw the breath expression into our beingness as the I am, and we exhale it as a we are once we've processed it in an internal capacity. And the more that we lie in that kind of, we're not so attached, we're not kind of living through the mirror of other people's drama or third party maya, the more we emerge with real clarity, and that's what kind of creates our blissful nature. And as you said earlier, Riki, when you're at that radiating level, right, that kind of, I'm past the trauma, I'm past the attachment, I'm past all the karmic imbalance, and I'm radiating this powerful sense of rebirth, people notice, right? People notice. You walk into a room and, for lack of a better word, you light it up, because people can sense their subconscious, right? Their subconscious desire to rise outside of the limitations that the programming creates around them and within them. They recognise that.
Yeah. I think you know, they can sense the soul in you as well. You know, and I think deep inside everybody, no matter what the programming is, they long to feel that too. You know, they long to feel that freedom of energy, and it's almost like we're moving from a world of the grey. You know, like the grey city people who are just caught in feeling a slave to the system. You know, and that greyness leaves, and you see the person's face fill up with colour.
Yep.
You know, they're animated, they're alive, and it's funny because it almost takes you to be connected to your soul to be able to actually witness that in someone else. You know, in other words, if you feel that disconnected yourself, you won't really see that someone's vibrating like that. You know, so you know, the world becomes more and more beautiful the more connected you get to your truth. You know, and your energy. So. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
The other thing that's worthy of just drawing it back to the collective is that it's okay, guys, to feel emotionally overwhelmed right now. It's like there's such a lack of fire in the sky to kind of, you know, create the air. Air is what creates the fire. It fans the fire. It fans the flames of purification, and there's such a lack of it that we feel like we can't breathe. We feel as if our whole chest is constricted, and we don't have this kind of freedom to just sort of, you know, just be. And that's going to be further intensified by what we've just been through, right? We've just been through this full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer. We've just had Uranus station direct, and we really got this Saturn-Pluto conjunction where the old pattern of Saturn, which is like, this is the lot in life, and this is the way it's got to be, and here are the rules and the defined order that you have to follow, blah, 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 and if you don't, you're going to rot in hell. Well, that's not what this new conjunction is about at all, because the Earth is being bombarded with a massive amount of photon light energy, and it is shifting the planetary logos, the very core essence of the planets themselves, and the way they manifest and represent to us here on the Earth plane. So I can say that I went through like a couple of versions of the Dark Night of the Soul. One was very intense. You know about that, Riki. We had quite a couple of emotional outpours on that, where I said, right, that's it. I'm going to bust my phone. I'm just going to disconnect from the internet. I don't want to know about social media. It all sucks dog's ass as far as I'm concerned. And basically, then I kind of thought, well, hang on a minute. No, it's sort of challenging me to revisit certain aspects of the past that kept me kind of locked down, if you like, trapped in a lower vibration. And I know that if I can just work through it by cutting myself slack, by drawing more self-love into my unified energy field, that I'd rise above the limitations that I was creating for myself, because I was the purveyor of my own destiny, even though I wanted to blame all the external and controlling influences outside of myself. It was all happening very, very much within the inner planes, within my heart space. And once my heart stopped hurting, because I knew that my soul was getting back on track, illumination, these new codes were embedding from the higher realms of my conscious expansion, and that's what brought me out the other end. And I've heard from many people that this is a reflection of what's happening to many people who are more aligned to their higher power. They are not falling into the subservient capacity that they used to be in by just following, like with rote memorization, that's the way I'm going to do it. I've always done it that way. They're not doing it that way, Riki, and that's the conversation, is that you do come out the other end and you do generate the greater clarity, and the clarity creates the blissful state, and you can carry that blissful state from one side of one day to another.
And I think there's a real sense that our external world is related to our internal world, and like depending on your mindset, you'll have things go wrong for you in the outside world, or when you're in flow and when you're in a good state within and you're doing the right things within yourself, that the outside world seems to just go in a state of flow, and opportunities come, beautiful experiences happen. So there's a real sense that we are the manifestors of our own destiny. It's just that we didn't kind of realise that, and we didn't also understand always the steps of today and how they influence tomorrow or influence the future. And in that sense, you don't need to be so concerned about, where you're getting to, because you understand, well, if I make these choices now, if I can discern what's right for me today and tomorrow, each day will lead to something beautiful. So I don't need to be, it's not to say I won't plan, but it's to say that, well, I've been making these really messed up choices recently. Let's drop those, and when I do drop those, I open up much more possibility for my future. So what do you feel about all that? I suppose it all just relates to the same thing, really, doesn't it?
It's just a reiteration of basically recognizing this new language. We are moving more and more with this Saturn Pluto. I'm going to keep bringing it back, right? That's why I wrote my opus. I wrote an opus this week, guys, where I felt like I just discovered an app which was like speech to text, and I thought, oh, come on, it's going to be an AI algorithm, and how well can it really follow me, especially when I'm in the flow? And to my surprise, it was pretty accurate. It came out as a rather large kind of body of words, but once I split it all up and gave it a certain sense of form and sense, and we posted it, and Riki will share that on the interface there so you guys can have a look at it. but it was a gift to all humanity to say this
Yeah.
Saturn-Pluto conjunction, it's powerful, it's real, it's happening. And if we don't embrace it, if we don't allow those mutant paradigms of our past experience to well back up so that we can face it, you know, receive and acknowledge the lessons that we've learned from it, and then humbly thank it for its service and send it back to source, we can't move forward. And one of the things that I've said last week, and I will reiterate again now, it's like once you do that, you can get on this beautiful new ship that you've created, your life experience, if you like, in this incarnation is created with your tribe, right? Get on that ship with your tribe and basically blindfold your crew and release yourself from the dock and just move with trust in your heart across the greater expanses of the cosmos, knowing that the universe has got your back.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and that's something I never really even understood for so many years. I heard people say that, but I just wasn't in that space, and that's the thing. It's like, just because someone's saying something and you think, well, it must not be real because I don't feel that, but it's like you will, but it's about getting into your divine flow, and then you start, you know, seeing that, wow, you know, there's always possibilities, and wow, you know, I can alter my destiny and get into that state. Mike, I was just going to say, if you could maybe like move your phone in a different position or something, or just, it's still going in and out, you know, I'm not sure really what we can do, but I've said we'll try and tweak something, but I've tried tweaking some settings here and that, but nothing's helping really. How close are you to the phone? Just wondering.
I'm not close. I've got the microphone basically pointed upward, but I can point it away a bit more. I think you're just going to find that bandwidth, you know, when you're working on your phone, is just going to be, you know, it's not perfect, man, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm not on my phone, I'm on the laptop, but what it is it's going in and out, but not, this isn't actually an internet issue, this is something weird to do with the sound going loud and quiet. Never mind. We've done the best we can anyway, people, so sorry about that, but hopefully next podcast we'll have this more sorted out. But brilliant. Okay, so I mean, I feel like these are very important things to understand, because so many of us have been feeling not so empowered in our life, you know, and I feel like you've expressed some real ways there to, you know, to really take the reins, you know, and get on track.
Let's look at what we call the practical output, because it's all well and good to talk about it. As I said last week, and I do apologise, I had a few messages come in saying, oh, you were really intense, you know, towards the end. And I said, I thought that basically Corey and I were very intense, you know, because we were passionate about what it is that we wanted to express to our community. But, you know, there's a lot of people out there just talking, you know, they just talk and talk and talk, and they post and post and post, and it doesn't mean anything, right? It's like they're putting stock in what they think is important to them when their heart knows it's not, right? You got to do the work. So let's go back to the beginning if we could. Imagine living your life with less, right? The life of passion that doesn't have the trappings of the typical chaotic world around you. So let's put that into a practical context, okay? Because that's what Saturn does. And Pluto, which loves to kind of challenge, like Uranus challenges the secrets, you know, the kind of the darker shadow. We're going to talk about the darker shadow aspects of self and how we need to face that. But we'll get to that probably when Corey comes online in about half an hour or so. But let's put it into a practical context. Look around your living room, right? Your living room, for most people, is the place where you chill out, right? you got a couch there. More than likely you've got your multimedia set up, whether it's telly and, you know, computers, DVDs, your Spotify. Maybe you've got that kind of Alexa stuff going on, you know, all this sort of predictive AI. But go into your living room and count all of the things that you've got in your living room. Don't worry about the rest of the house. Just count what's in the living room. I did it today, right? And I've just moved into a beautiful new one-bedroom space where I have this incredible sense of real peace and tranquility because I'm not in a busy street. I don't have a lot of traffic noise. I don't have any kids. I don't have any screaming, you know, neighbours or nothing. And I counted in my living room, I have 35 items. Right?
Wow.
Now, it blew my mind because when I looked at each of those 35 items and I asked that question, do I need it? Yeah. Is it bringing my life value? And how intentional is it to have it? Or is it just there because I've dragged it from one space that I used to live in, which was a totally different place and environment, into this because I don't know any better, right? I'm stuck in a habituated pattern of following the cycle.
Yeah. I mean, and also, like, you know, you feel like you can't live without these things, but there's a liberation through dropping them. And like we said about the simplicity, bringing clarity and focus, it's like, you know, I've dropped a lot of these things in the past and it's been like, well, what have I got left in this room? Oh, my guitar and my voice, you know, and it's like, I'm sat there thinking, well, that's exactly what I'm meant to be doing, picking up the guitar and singing, you know, not on with these millions of other projects that don't really feed the soul, you know. So on many, many levels, this simplicity and drawing things back seems to really work, you know.
It clears the clutter. You try to think of everything that's bombarding you. Remember, you know, most of the time, the quantum field that is your thought construct is taking an idea or a thought and manifesting it into a form and then collapsing that into a particle. That particle becomes solidified form, and then that solidified form is embodied in some form of physical expression and or action. Right? It's very straightforward, really. That's the usual kind of go-to holding pattern, if you like. Now, imagine when you're sitting in front of, say, you're sitting right now, you're listening, okay, and you get this kind of feeling, if you like, or an urge that, hey, I drank some water or I had a cup of tea or whatever, and I need to go to the toilet. The minute you get up and solidify that idea into actionable form, you're going to follow a pattern, right? You're going to get up, you're going to go into your bathroom, you're going to close the door, blah, 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 go through the motions. But if instead you sit there and you go, well, I do need to go to the loo, but it's not that big a deal right now. I'm kind of enjoying where I'm at. I don't want to really break and be distracted from what it is that I'm enjoying and being in my passion about. You have changed the pattern. In that moment, you've collapsed the idea into a more wave-like experience. And that experience is now lucid, meaning that it doesn't have a conclusion. It doesn't have a finite or absolute kind of output. It's now basically available in all manner of probability and possibility. And that's what decluttering will do for you. You'll find yourself going, hang on, I used to have that, and that used to, you know, match that, and then that was over here, and then that kind of complemented that, because all of those things require you to think about it, right?
Yep, a time and energy, all of these possessions, and I mean, this is a classic thing, isn't it, about people walking away from their possessions and that, and I mean, I've obviously done it and lived out in the wild for extended periods of time, and proud of myself for managing to drop the phone, drop it as in,
Totally proud of you, man, totally proud of what you've achieved.
It's like, yeah, and that was like, wow, like, the real world exists, and I actually want to talk to people. It's like, what the hell is that? But and just it's not enough to just drop the phone for a day. And we're talking about you need to be able to shift your consciousness so that you're generally, living in this reality, not absorbed in, the delusion and I mean, screen time's what it is. I mean, you all know when's the time you should be coming off the screen and when it's alright to have a bit of a blast on whatever, Facebook, but this accumulation of that energy, and I do think there are astral doorways, speaking my truth there,
yeah, man,
which are open through the machines in whatever way. In other words, there's a spiritual sort of connection energy there, and it's not necessarily always the best, so once you open up to it, it's easier to be like, oh, I'll just go back on, So there's almost this sort of habitual pattern and program going on there, But as we say, like going out into nature, it seems to break those patterns, and then you're connecting more to your spirit again, and you're getting your wisdom come from your spirit, which is like, God, I love this break from tech, God, I love being out here, But then 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, but what about, what about this person? What about this possibility with this person? Or what about, but really we need to be able to feel out these paths from the heart, and know what really serves me again, and it brings it back to that, discerning the difference. And this is it takes time, it takes time to really cultivate that sort of energy,
I got to say, I heard from a friend yesterday who said to me, hey Mike, I've just become mindful of what I call the tech flinch, right? The AI flinch. And I went, tell me, man, what's it all about? He said, even if you have your phone on silent and all of a sudden you get a notification because you're logged into social media, you're logged into FaceShit or Twitter or, Instagram or whatever else it is, you're logged in. So when somebody posts something that you're predominantly following or you've allowed into your circle of connection and influence, you get this notification, right? And these little buzzers that you get in your pocket or, in your handbag or whatever it is, it causes the body, the human flesh suit, to flinch.
Yeah.
And if you look around, if you actually sit down at a supermarket, right, and you sit down in the mall area where they usually have the entertainment centre, the centre of entertainment, and just watch the people walking from one store to another in their accumulation and aggregation, their stuff, right, getting the stuff, and watch the way that people literally flinch every second. You see them kind of having these little conniption fits, if you like.
It's almost like, you're being called, someone, like as if you've got a boss at your back, the boss has sent you a notification, you better check what it is, because you can't just sit there and not know what this person said to you.
Exactly.
You can't do that.
Exactly. And I hope that people who are listening are sitting there smiling, going, dude, that's exactly what's happening, right? If I don't get that little kind of flinch buzz at least 50 times a day, and for some people, especially in the corporate world, they get it up to about 250 times a day. There you go. My buzz there. That'll probably be Corey. I'll just check that. But I think you know where I'm coming from, mate.
Yeah, definitely. We'll give it enough 5-10 minutes and we'll call Corey on. So, I mean, I understand it all so well, and I get so pulled into this Facebook world, and I think underneath there's this need for connection, and that's the thing. I think that we would be able to have a minimalistic life if our life was full of things which really served us, because we wouldn't be continually seeking for more, or for more, distraction or whatever it is. So I don't know. It's just it's mad, really.
Well, it is, you know, and that's Corey just saying that he's getting standing by, so that's good to know. So just going back to that for a moment, the first thing we need to recognise is that it's happening, right? It's happening to us. We are stuck in that same typical pattern of stuff. I need stuff because I've got a void in my life and I feel empty and I don't feel like I'm part of the community, and I feel estranged and I feel isolated and somewhat kind of alone. I know I'll just get stuff because it will make me feel better. Well, science has proven that once the human man or woman gets to the point of earning over $100,000 a year, they literally start the downward spiral of their happiness. It gets worse with every 10,000 extra that you accumulate over and above this threshold of 100K, right? And people who literally travel, like there's some fantastic stuff online that you can check out where you've got guys who literally go around talking about this whole minimalist outlook for a whole 12 months, right? And they literally walk around with 2 bags each, that's it, for 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's the same thing, you know, people, you know, I've got a car, I'm so excited, I've got the novelty of a car, I'm loving that, it gives me my independence. But now I'm seeing, because I'm being bombarded by this constant consumerism, that I need another car, right? My wife needs a car, and then my older son needs a car. So all of a sudden you're really in this kind of flow of accumulation, and you're really kind of playing out this whole consumerism, right? This ridiculous kind of addiction that you have to consumerism. And I'll just finish up by saying one more thing. So one thing that became clear after coming through that dark night of the soul, where I felt a lot of displacement, I felt like I was going through a cellular rebirth, was that the download that became crystal clear was humanity is finally coming out of the fog of consumerism. Right? We're not being pulled in to the ridiculous amount of kind of waste that's now involved. Like they call it flash fashion, right? Flash fashion means that instead of having 4 seasons in a year, for women particularly, where you bought your winter wardrobe, your summer wardrobe, that it's now 52 weeks of the year. What you wear on one week is no longer going to be cool and trendy the following week.
Wow, God.
That's how bad it's got, Ricky, right? And people are spending all their money.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is my brothers and sisters, you know, I mean, I want kind of prosperity for all in a way, or abundance in a way, you know, in which we don't feel like, because the thing is, there's people who've got lots of money who it just gets drained on things that, and they're thinking, well, what have I done, you know, if and when, you know, the clarity comes, and it's like, what have I done, you know, you want to be in a state where every day you've got clarity, you know what decisions, you know, you're sort of making, you know, but I know very well how it is to get these sort of transfixed ideas in my head of sort of what I want, you know, I mean, for me it'd be like some speakers or something, you know, and it's fine, you know, it's like, for me it's like 1 or 2 things, but still, the point is that the mind is sort of pulling us off on these tangents, and
they do matter, and we need to understand that these planetary transits are important, not only to our well-being, not only to discovering the deeper kind of expressions of who we are, but the way that we're also evolving. Through rebirth, we evolve. There is a real conscious evolution there, you know, and all of this kind of turmoil and chaos and emotional turbulence and all of this is designed to draw our attention back to our center so that we can recognize and acknowledge this is going on, and I'm either going to be part of the problem or I'm going to be part of the solution. And that's what Saturn is saying to Pluto. Let's see if we can't really, really upset the balance of the human genome and see how many come out the other end where they really are being more creative, they're being more mindful, more open to the idea of generating solutions rather than compounding to the problem. That's purification.
Well, I think I've got a lot of echo here, actually, Mike, from your being upset now, but just a little bit distracting there. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Mike. You know, I think that there's definitely a middle path, and you know, like you say, sides need to come together to find common ground. You know, and but also from what you're saying there, it's showing that there's some sort of in the collective, you know, in the collective of the people, there's something that we're playing out, you know, on a grander scale. There's some reason why we're picking these sides and then like really defending them, you know, and it's coming from some sort of inner unhealthy, you know, whatever it is, you know, childhood traumas or understanding, you know. When collective come together like that, you know, there's this sort of sometimes mob mentality, you know, even though it may not be like in regards to like football, you know, where there's this mob mentality where everybody's coming together and building up this collective darkness, this collective shadow, you know. I think Corey's just left for some reason, but so, you know, I really feel that there is a middle path, and that's humanity's goal at the moment, is to try and come to a solution and connection through all this madness. And I think in a way the problems on the planet now, you know, the global warmings and the state of things is allowing that to come together. But there's something very strange going on, which is what I've noticed, is that on the one side, for me, I have this feeling of sort of splitting apart, you know, this feeling of it's almost like the old world's dying, you know, and with it I can sense within me this sort of feeling of a struggle. You've got one side, the old world, trying to hold on to its grip of the way things were, you know, the very controlling sort of ways that we used to have it.
Oh, well, mate, that's Saturn Pluto for you, dude.
There's not much point talking later, is there?
Look, it's like anything, man, you know, technology, Mercury, I don't know whether it's in retrograde. I've tried not to look too deeply into what all the planets are doing, you know, because it can be really, really, it can be disempowering to know, oh my God, all these planets are in retrograde. Oh, everything's stopped. It's not moving. There's no fire in the sky, blah, blah, blah. It's enough to knock you for six every time.
No, I mean, I agree, and I think what ultimately we want to be doing, and this is going to take time, is to be able to sense it. You know, like, so what would happen is, like, you'd feel that there's a Leo energy coming in strong, you know, and then you'd online and you'd look up about Leo and you'd be like, and you'd find out, oh yeah, Leo's in whatever conjunction with whatever, and you'd sense it first, you know, so you'd be intuitively guided to look at what the planets are doing through, you know, what you're currently picking up. I mean, that's an amazing place to be in, to really be able to sense, you know, to sense the planets that well and their effects, you know. But I know that's possible because I've sensed it, and when we had that big Leo thing going on, I was feeling it, you know. I was like, oh my God, I can sense what Leo energy is, you know. But we're just saying about the planets and the effects, you know, from the planets, and I was saying that basically, because you know me, I'm quite aware of sensitivity to these things, you know, and that especially in the older times, you know, the tribal people, I'm sure they were aware more that a certain planet was doing a certain thing, and they could sense it, you know. And I was saying how about when there was this Leo sort of energy coming in, And I was like, oh my God, I can sense the actual energy of Leo. And it was amazing, because I thought, oh, you know, I'd never sense anything like that. But, you know, that's the plus with becoming more sensitive to life and knowing what you need. But anyway, what I was going to say is that a little story about me and my ex-girlfriend, because we used to go travelling, you know, and then a couple of times we'd bought all our belongings again, you know, we'd come back to England, and I can remember moving into this sort of static caravan, nice spot, you know, overlooking the valleys and stuff, and I'm sat there thinking, this would be good to do my music, because it's a good space, you know. And but when we first went in there, we were like, oh my God, what are we doing? Because our reality had been living out in the wild for, you know, a few months or whatever, you know, so life was extremely simple, and we were sort of like dreading, you know, getting caught in buying everything again, getting caught into paperwork and all that, you know. And what you said before about, you know, things can be more complicated sort of thing, is valid, because what would happen is, you know, we'd end up trying to get out of the system again, and then we'd be going on eBay trying to sell all our belongings, and that would be, you know, really complicated, trying to, you know, you're creating more mess for yourself, I suppose, you know. But what I would like to say in regards to that is that, you know, sometimes you don't have to put yourself through that extra complication, you know. And really, you know, I didn't have to start selling everything on eBay. I could have just gone out and played a couple of gigs and done something I love, you know, and got the same amount of money. And so I guess the point is that sometimes there's alternative ways to do things and simplify our life, when we think that we need to go through a load of struggle to, you know, to do these things, sort of things. So the more a person expresses themselves, whatever that might be, you know, the more you validate yourself, the more your own energy is here. You know, like for me as a musician, that's very easy to do, because all I've got to do is do some singing or play the guitar. The moment I start doing that, I feel more embodied in my soul energy, and when that happens, I'm less bothered by the external. You know, and I think this is a really valid point, because so many people are so affected by the external, which is like, you know, they walk down the street and they feel like they've just got to go into Costa Coffee because there's this big pull for everyone to go into Costa Coffee. You know, it's like, because you are so full of what you're here to do, you know, you're full of yourself, the energy around you no longer, you know, pervades your system so much, and you're able to sort of like bat that off, you know, like other people's depression, or when you feel, you know, people around you who are not so much in a good way. So I don't know whether you've experienced that so much, Corey, but it's really interesting, and it's really good, because you feel empowered, you know. So it's almost like just being the light that you are, you know, or speaking up or whatever it is, you know. But it's that suppression, it's the moment we feel suppressed, it's that moment we feel shut down, that it's almost as if we become like a psychic sponge, because you've made yourself small, you know, you've made your own energy so small that the external then has more of an effect on you, you know.
Look, yeah, anxiety. You know, people have got to realise that it's part and parcel of purification. It's part and parcel of coming to grips with the fact that you're human and that you're not, you know, you're not perfect. I just think people are just too tough on themselves, and they just seem to be really presenting themselves as, you know, I'm not worthy, I'm not capable, I don't have the valor to stand in my sovereign power and hold my own and all that kind of thing. And it's a poor excuse, really. You know, it's a poor excuse in the sense that we've all had a lot of practice on dealing with this kind of thing, and to keep playing the victim card is just, you know, becoming an excuse, an easy way out. And we've got the power of the planets, we've got the power of the universe that can come in really and support us, especially now more than ever. But, you know, when people are stuck in their particular, you know, patterns of being so subservient to their emotional state and their emotional body, well, then, you know, they're only going to compound the issue more and more, and that's going to be better addressed by going back to what we stated, and that is, becoming minimalist, becoming more aware of what it is that really serves you. I just don't get it for a lot of people, to be frank, in the sense that it's like attaching to other people's drama is a choice. And if you aren't really exercising that choice, well then I don't see where the maturity lies in that. I don't see where the wisdom lies in that. I don't see where, the shift and the change lies in that. Do you?
Well, I think what we're talking about deep inside a lot of people is belief. We're talking about belief with a lot of this, and some people do truly believe that, like the ideas that they need to work hard to get where they're at, or that they believe that they're not good enough, and you take that on, you believe that inside, and you slave yourself, you drive yourself to perfection. I know people who think they don't look good enough, who are trying every day to get likes on Facebook, or to get to be loved, or to doll themselves up for the women, to be really loved and liked, but they don't. What I'm trying to say is that not everyone understands that they have a choice to do something else. It's like you become so enmeshed in the delusion that you forget that you have a choice. Only part of you knows, and then that emotional sort of drama and the energy that the pain body, which Eckhart Tolle always uses that word, pain body, becomes so big. So, ultimately in mastering this energy, I mean, you either say like, bugger it, I'm going to cut off from my feelings and just ignore it all because it's all a load of rubbish, or you say, okay, I'm going to, be with what is, but not attached to it, not let it, it's not real, it's just my feelings, they express an inner child that's hurt who wanted attention, or they express, I don't feel good enough or whatever, but I know it's not the truth, But where is that part in a lot of people? It's not coming forward, that wisdom, the wise part is not coming forward. And I think, to be honest, if you've got that part of you, you're blessed, because the lower, so-called lower emotions, they tell a story, but this is what's happened to humanity. We've been becoming them. We've been becoming the identity, what we think is our self, and we're so much more. But just disconnecting from everything isn't the answer either. We need to be able to holistically look at all there is, and that may seem complicated. When we're actually, the topic here is supposed to be minimalism. But I think to pull it back to, how do you have a minimalist life? How do you have a simple life, and understand all these concepts without getting too much caught in your head, just following your heart? And I know that sounds easy, but it's as much as going back to your breath. Not listening too much to your mind and the emotions, but allowing what is without believing it,
Yeah.
So, there is a need to try and find clarity in our lives right now, and like I say, like I've said it before earlier, but life is short, and you want to know that when you die, like you get there and you're like, God, I did a bloody great job. I'm so proud that I managed to pull myself out of that, and God, I managed to get through that, and I jumped over that, and like I know I'm pretty much happy with where I've come to now. It's just tweaking everything.
There's the delusion. You just stated the delusion there. I'm just going to continue to jump through hoops. I'm just going to continue to, find what makes me feel safe and secure. I'm going to continue to perpetuate the myth that I create in myself, in the sense that, I can fix it. This is the thing. This is the thing that is most delusional about men and women today, and the so-called relationship battle, is that if it doesn't work because you aren't built of the same substance, you're not the same cellular makeup, right? You never will be. Get it out of your head. It's ridiculous to think of it any other way. All you're looking for is common denominators in which you can openly share something that you both feel grounded and passionate about. That's it. Nothing more, right? And at the end of the day, to keep thinking, I'll just keep going back because I know I can fix it. I'll just treat it differently because I know I can fix it. You can't fix shit, right? It's not meant that way. That's not what Saturn and Pluto are trying to say to anybody. Anybody who understands astrology, knowing that Mars is in Sagittarius, and it's saying to us, stop feeling so victimized. Stop feeling, I know we started out with the whole, we're all overwhelmed, but we've got to bring it back to some form of empowered reality. And the empowered reality is, wake up and realize that you create your reality. You're the one that predetermines and pre-orchestrates your destiny. So learn to stop repeating the same pathetic cycles that draw you into the lower vibration and keep you trapped there. You can't fix it. Stop thinking you can. There is no fixing. Pluto won't allow you to fix. Uranus won't allow you to fix. And Mars and Chiron won't allow you to fix. You've got to go through the wounded healer, but you've got to realize that you're only as wounded in the process as you want to be. Right?
Well, there's a part of us that is obviously infinite, and that's the part that needs to be guiding the process, So, you're going to identify with anything, identify that you're an infinite soul, and you can deal with anything. And that's the type of strength that, humans have forgotten that they are. If humans knew they were that, they'd be like, bloody hell, this anxiety is nothing,
Exactly. You see, that's the myth broken right there. That's the myth that's been dispelled, because you can think of things and you can look at the constructs you create around you, including the stuff that you buy every day, the stuff that you think you need. You can look at it as all part of the same delusion within the illusory 3D reality, within the higher framework of the hologram. It's pretty straightforward, really, when you think about it.
It is. It's all coming from the same desire to feel fulfilled, for one, or to avoid, But this is the point, you either deal with what emotion, comes up and become a master, of that, or you just get on with it, But either way,
that's right. Look, dude, at the end of the day, man, these are us talking from our own personal experience, right? Can we offer a caveat to those who are listening? Riki isn't qualified. I'm not qualified. None of us have got any credentials, right? We don't hold a piece of paper, a certificate to say that we're Reiki practitioners or we come from a higher shamanic background. My ass, right? That's bullshit. At the end of the day, we are just the same as you, right? We've just worked a little harder to allow the higher kind of frequency that we transmit our intention to the universe so that we get the support that we need. That's the only difference. And by doing that, we recognize that we don't need the stuff. We don't necessarily need the relationship. We don't necessarily need to feel attached to anything, because as multidimensional sovereign beings, we've got it all. Right? We've got it all. And we need to recognize it. That's the valor, right, in which we express ourselves. And that's the worthiness in which we feel that we have the appreciation to receive the gift and the bounty that nature and the universe brings to us every single day of our lives.
Well, I agree. It's being not in a state of fear, being fear-driven, But, when I say about the people on the planet having anxiety, it's not necessarily to say that they're victims, so to speak, but it's saying that they don't remember that they are the ones empowering their life. They don't remember, I can just make a different choice, I can actually change my... And for people to not realise that, it's like, what the hell, but the programming does go pretty deep, really,
It does.
It really does.
It does go deep, but the thing is that as many of the esoterics, as many of the metaphysical speakers, as many of the people who are associated with the secret space program, the higher ascended masters, they'll all say the same thing, right? It's a process. And until you acknowledge and recognise that your lot in life isn't exactly the manifestation of who you are, you won't be able to find a pathway to self-correct. You just won't. And you're deluded to think otherwise. So people need to really understand and respect that tough love, right? Love 3.0, where you really genuinely care about someone because it feels right in your heart. That's more important than turning around and going, oh, don't worry, it'll be all right. Yeah, no, that's fine. You'll be right, mate, it'll all work itself out. You're the only one that'll work it out because you're the best teacher that you could ever hope to work with. Not all these online distorted spiritualists. Come on, man, are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. Everybody on a street corner says, come here, I can heal you by reading a couple of PDFs and looking at a few fucking YouTube videos.
Yes, no worries. This point of reference where you are self-validating, so you don't need energy from people, you like yourself, you've got conviction to your path, you trust in life, that is so energetically efficient because you're not going out there saying, love me, or,
Exactly.
I want this, I want that, but you're more, you realise you are the gift, you've got the gift, I am the flipping gift of life, it's here in me, and I don't need, loads of other people to distract me like Mike Priscus at the moment.
Just don't forget, we need to share that link because there are people out there that will resonate with what's being offered there. There's some nice insights and empowerment opportunities to get across in that particular link, so do share it.
Got you, here it comes. Alright, so this is a link from Mike Priscus. I love this actually, it's really, really well said. But if anyone fancies reading this, please do, because there's some good stuff in there.
Go on, Ricky.
So this, being self, it's like as if you've got, a generator inside yourself. You are the sunshine,
Yeah.
You are that. And it's like, no matter what happens, okay, even if, I suddenly feel like I'm supposed to go into the forest and live out in the forest for a week and I don't know where I'm going to get my food, bugger it, have that trust in yourself, that you can do whatever you need to do, and, through discomfort, because that's the thing, we're humans have become placid, really, and this is why, Mike is so full on with this tough love thing, because I think inside you probably realise that, we've become this more placid version of who we should be, and it's through the difficulties, it's through the adversity, it's through the challenges, and not avoiding them, but being okay with your anxiety, being okay with whatever comes into your space, that's a hard place to be in. It's alright to go into guru mode and go and meditate and go and live in, India somewhere and in Africa, but the true mastery is like, to really, it's now is the moment of empowerment, right this second.
Absolutely. And just going back to the very, very beginning as we wrap this up for this week, what is minimalism in your life? Do you see it as a reflection of your own rebirth? What would it be like to wake up tomorrow and realise that you had a bed, okay, a mirror, some toiletries, and a bag of clothes, and that's it?
Liberation.
Exactly. No smartphone, no screen, no attachment to AI, no EMF frequency, no inviting archon energies to... We didn't even get around to talking about how Pluto is, of course, you know, the god of the underworld, right? It's like, that's in Greek mythology. Pluto wants to drag you into the underworld, right? It wants you to experience the darkest shadow facet of who you are, right? And Saturn is sitting there with its, you know, finger in the air, kind of, you know, chastising you, going, go to the underworld and learn what it's like to face your doppelganger and your darker shadow and whatever else it is. But as I just said, you wake up tomorrow and all you've got is a bed, some toiletries, a bag, and a mirror, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, when you do that, the focus starts going within, because you've not got all these things in the outside world. I mean, obviously, so many of us have our jobs and that to do, but either way, even that, you know, even you can simplify your life in that way, but it depends what you want in life, isn't it, really? But yes. I think that the more your soul energy comes forward, the more you're in touch with your soul energy. You know, you just want fresh air, you know, like to eat well, to feel alive, to feel healthy, sunlight, you know, you just...
You're right.
You know, like, you have your dreams, you know, but your dreams they're not like something that you can't live without, you know. If I was to die tomorrow, it's like, well, actually, you know, the moments I lived up to my death, you know, like, I'm glad I sort of did everything that made me feel good, and everything that my soul, because you can't go wrong, basically, is what I'm saying, when you're following your heart and your truth, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, it's there for a reason, so, and that's a real positive. But, you know, decluttering is a way to really begin to hear the voice of your soul, you know. Less input, you know.
Yes. Remember that your transmission stems from what you collapse in thought, right? You collapse it into the lucidity of a wave function, right? Because we're all sound and light, right? There's no body. There's none of this kind of flesh shit. There's none of that, right? That's rubbish, right? You're just sound and light and vibration, and you essentially, you operate at different, you know, tunings, if you like, scale and all that kind of thing. So knowing that's what you are, you transmit your highest intention to the universe by not having all these expectations and agendas and assigning responsibility to their function. You can collapse into either the wave function or to the particle function to manifest every single moment of your life on the planet. Now, a lot of the time, we get it wrong, right? All of us, every one of us get it wrong, and we go, hang on a minute, my mum and my dad, they came from this background, and this is what they followed, and they had this archetype, and they said this belief structure, and they've been drilling it into me since I've been a kid, right? That's the way it's got to be. That's the way I need to perceive my reality and make my life build around it. Well then, yeah, that's making really, really bad choices. Okay. You don't have to stay in the same lineage, the ancestral lineage of your past incarnation is only going to be valid to you until you recognize that, hang on a minute, it doesn't work. I'm not my mum. I'm not my dad, right? I'm not a product of my upbringing. I was, but I am liberated and I've broken free, and now I'm available to anything that the universe wants to throw at me. Right?
Indeed. I'll tell you what's very interesting is, you know, talking about energy and when you go into different spaces. Say, for instance, you go into a pub, you know, and this pub is a very typical, you know, there's a lot of say tough guys going there, you know, there's an atmosphere behind it, there's a sort of agenda in this space, you know.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, you know, they walk into it and, you know, you become immersed with that space like we talked about before with the sensitivity, you know. But the thing to realise is it's what we believe that creates our reality, obviously. And if you believe that I create my own reality and that I'm the master of my game,
yep,
you walk into someone else's game, because that's what you do. The moment you go into these different spaces, you know, you go into that pub, you walk into another game, and
brilliant.
It's like, for most of us, we think that we're subject to the rules of the game that we've entered.
Oh, know? Brilliant. You see, this is it, Riki. This is a huge step that Saturn and Pluto has shown you, is that who controls the game, right? Which game are you walking into and who's controlling it? You? Or the circumstance? Keep going, man. You're right onto it.
No, it's the politicians. I'm just a quiet little one in there. they're going to save the planet, and I just have to. Yeah. So no, spot on. So I mean, you know, but it's weird because it's like a realization, and the moment you realize that, it's not just a thought. You know, it's like, and that's something I don't quite understand yet. But it's like you become immersed in that energy of I create my own reality. You become immersed in I don't have to play by any rules. So it's almost like you detach from the rules, and really these rules are all around everywhere. You know, the moment you go out of the house, you've got this idea of, well, I'm not allowed to step on this land, you know, I'm not allowed to do this and this, and I do see in many humans that fear of, you know, going against the grain, you know, being silly in the street if you want to, you know, smile or be silly or have a laugh, you know. So there's this general feeling as if there's some subservience, you know, within people, and, you know, the liberation from that is truly beautiful. And I suppose that's what the true new dawn will be, when humans no longer feel they have to subscribe to that game. But it's almost like for some people they don't even know, you know, it's almost like we need a big sign saying, you know, you play your game, mate, you know, you're here to do that. And there's so many things like that, like the understanding for me with my music. Like, here's a little thought, is you know, I'd go on stage and it would be like the programming thoughts from my dad's side of the family, like, you know, what makes you think you're so special, you know, to be on stage or whatever, you know, you think it's all about you know. But, I know, man. And then on the other side, it's like my soul is saying, hang on, you're meant to be doing this. You go out there and sing, you know. And it's like, and then the ego's like going, oh, you know, but you're being whatever. And I'm just like ignoring that, because it's like, this is what you're meant to do, you know. And when you're living in your life doing those things, the so-called rules around you don't matter, you know. You are your energy, and you don't need to overpower others. You don't need to make yourself feel like you're big, because, you know that you're a big soul, you know, you don't need anything from anyone. I mean, imagine being in that place. I think maybe that word's self-autonomous, you know, like yourself, you're embodied in yourself. You don't need so much. You don't need so much from the outside world. And that's the place we need to get to now, you know, to a place where our needs are minimal, so that obviously we're not draining so much from the planet, you know. So as we know, all this comes from within, and that mirrors in our outside reality, you know. So I think in a way it's not always, on one level it's about doing the work, you know. It's about sometimes we do need to clear our traumas, we need to understand what we've experienced so we can see what our programs are, you know. But on the other side, it's realizing that we're more than everything that we've experienced, you know. We are extremely powerful beings, and I know that there has been very ancient civilizations who knew that, and it wasn't just a sort of a spiritual, beautiful world of love, man, you know. It was actually a real sense right through the core of them, you know, right through their even physical vessel, you know, through the DNA, through the trees, through a very grounded spirituality where they were strong, like physically strong as well, because the spirit wants to reside here when you're physically strong, in a physically strong vessel. So everything was mirroring the spirit. We create that world here.
Yeah, absolutely, perfectly said, man. We've got so much that we're now learning from the ancients that we're just mirroring, but in a completely opposite manner, right? We're not honouring, right, our true and our higher purpose. We're not honouring our connection to nature. We're not honouring, our need to ground to Mother Earth. We're not honouring the, the preservation of our resources. It's such a self-perpetuated deception, and that's why I keep going on and on and on about people stuck in the delusion. They're the hamsters on the hamster wheel thinking that they're actually pedaling forwards when they're fucking pedaling nowhere. Right?
Yeah, but it takes, and that's the thing, to actually realise that you're in that state, it's almost like you need that, the contrast,
That's it. Yep.
Something along who's aware, or, for some people a life-threatening illness, or whatever, and this guy called Ralph, hi Ralph, has just come in and he says, I find the less I have, the clearer I think, and I really feel that.
Well done, Ralph. Good on you, man. That's great.
So, yeah, and that's the thing, like, it depends what you want in life, and yeah, like, this word clarity is, like, it's very, very strongly coming up, last year and this year, but there's certain things I'd particularly like to bring forward this year and make them part of my everyday reality, and it's that clarity, like, as a species, we don't have time for fucking around, really. I'm going to swear for the first time in the podcast, but it's like, for God's sake, we don't, like,
we don't.
In our personal lives and in the grander scale of things, so, and like you said, Mike, I just want to say quick that, like you said, connecting with the nature again and feeling that truth, and the clarity that comes from that, disperses all the confusion, and I do think humans in general, a lot of the time at the moment, because of being so caught in the technology, there's this tendency to feel almost slightly derealized is the word, like dissociated. I mean, I felt it after like 2 hours, non-stop, trying to do some chronic file organising, and you come off and you're not being with reality, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you reckon on that?
I think what we need to tell people as well is that we're both incredibly blessed because we were both given the gift, at birth of a higher kind of expression in music. And we must admit to everybody that music has created such a blissful journey for us once we realised that we didn't care, or we weren't going to, attach to an agenda of trying to become famous or trying to become, super popular and whatever. We're damn good musicians and we know it, what we're capable of, and therefore we just go out there and speak our truth through our music. Sometimes people need to, in order to kickstart their whole journey of self-correction, is to simply identify within the clutter, right, because it's all fucking clutter, what is still driving their passion. It could be the fact they love to draw. It could be the fact that they love to collect. Even collecting things is okay in the scheme of it, as long as it's intentional and it serves a higher purpose. So perhaps many of you could look at what you have within the framework of your stuff, so to speak, and if there is anything passionate in there that you can get vibed up about, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, when you do that, you start seeing even more possibilities, because this is the way, consciousness and energy seems to work. The more you feel like you're a slave to the system, and so some people maybe not be able to break their, slavery to working to another boss, or, just yet, but at least if you can find the things which really nurture you, you're bringing in that positive energy, you're allowing other realities to manifest, and it's through, you know, truly connecting to what you love that your spirit comes in, and then other people come into your sphere, you know, who resonate along that level. You end up having more healthy people in your life, you end up going up the ladder.
Yeah.
And feeling more possibilities, you know, and that's talking here. We want to evolve, you know, just not us, but as a species as well, you know.
You know, I really like where you're coming from there, and now I'm getting my second wind, so we can keep going. So one thing that came very clear to me a few minutes ago was, you know, what can we offer people in the most simplistic expression of what they do each day that's going to support them? Well, number one, remember that a lot of the construct that is built around you, right, which is not it's not your deal. You are living in a construct because that's the reality that consumerism, right, and, you know, ego-driven accumulation and aggregation is all about. So anything that you find is working to consolidate that more, to strengthen that more, to stabilize that more, that's what you've got to get rid of. So if I was to offer the smallest piece of advice to anybody out there as to what they could do, stop drinking tap water. Right, that's it. Stop drinking tap water. Tap water is filled with chromium-6. It's filled with heavy metals, barium, aluminium. It completely calcifies the pineal gland. It breaks down the thymus and oh gosh, I can't even remember them. Ricky, what are the other major parts of the endocrine gland system? What do we got? We got the pineal, we've got the thymus,
yeah.
We've got the, oh dear, what else we got?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Mike, but
anyway, all of those centers, right? Those fusions of energy that all have nodes of connectivity. They're all being calcified. They're all being, you know, crystallined, but not crystallined as in a higher octave of energy. More of like a salt. It's like, you know, there's like a crust. That's it. It's crusted. And if you stop drinking tap water, you stop the dumbing down process, right? If you stop brushing your teeth with fluoride, you stop the dumbing down process. Because these simple things that has been instilled in our everyday life since we were kids, right? What did our parents say? Nah, that's it. You can't go to bed. You've got to go and brush your teeth, right? You got to go and basically fill your whole gob with, you know, your whole mouth with fluoride, right? And have it all rot away and really, really kind of, you know, calcify what's going on in your higher energy system. So stop drinking tap water. That's one thing straight away.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to it, and I was just looking at bentonite clay at the moment. This came up in a healing session for me yesterday, but what bentonite clay does, it goes into the body and pulls out toxins and heavy metals and stuff that have been, you know, built up over the years.
That's the clay, right? Bentonite clay you're talking about.
That's right.
Yeah. No, it's amazing, but it's very. Again, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm not going to go into the personal details about it. There's a lot of fake versions of it.
Yeah, okay, so it's really important to find the right stuff.
You got to find the right stuff. Believe it or not, it's something you can make yourself, right? It's really good for poultices. Like if you've got a massive tooth abscess or whatever, you get some bentonite clay and you stick it up against your cheek, right? Put a bandage around it, heat it up if you can, put a bandage around it, lay on it, and within 12 hours, all the poison will be drawn into the clay from the abscess, and then you just pull the clay away and rinse out your mouth with some salt water, and bang, you're done.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know that some of the tribes were using this, you know, a long time ago, you know?
Yeah.
And it just makes you think, you know, because obviously we've started up our medical world full of pharmaceuticals and that, and, there is a lot of stuff. I mean, the Amazon, we're only using like about 15% of the Amazon rainforest plants, you know, and a lot of the elders there know about some of the other ones. So the point being is that the plants all tie in with all this, and the energy of the plants is also, because there's a link here between this minimalism, what we're talking about, and the balance of plants which are in their, I'd almost say plants that are in their power, you know, plants that have been not mistreated, not fed loads of rubbish or, you know, chemical laden ground, you know.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is, when the digestive system is getting overloaded with all these different chemicals and different energies, which is a lot for it to deal with, it creates that stress on the system. And I've noticed there's a direct link between stress in the gut, you know, and emotional stress and mental clarity and everything that we feel, you know. So holistically, in regard to simplifying our lives, we need to be coming, you know, from many different angles, which obviously each one of those angles, once they build up, you have these breakthroughs, you know. And that reminds me of, like, recently, a few months ago, when I was doing a few things, you know, I was eating really well. And when I say eating well, that's knowing what I needed. I don't believe there's a certain way that's right, you know. It's like, there's not this right or wrong thing, you know. But I was eating well, and I started doing yoga. I'd done deep breathing and a few different things, and getting out a fair bit, getting good fresh air, sleeping on the earth.
Great.
And yeah, all that accumulated, because it's like coming at it from, you know, so many different angles that you just can't not get aware and awake, you know. And I went into the forest and I was like, oh my God, the world's so beautiful, you know. And it's like a completely different state of being where all you can see is beauty and possibilities, you know. And I think, you know, if I wish anything for the human populace, is that they get those moments of true clarity, even if it's only for 10 minutes, because all you need is that moment once, you know, and you're like, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to, you know, get rid of this stuff that doesn't serve me, I'm going to make these changes, and I'm just going to focus on this stuff which is really fulfilling me, you know. So yeah, I just feel really positive about all that, you know. But I mean, I can be saying this stuff, and I'm kind of like in the middle. I'm not in the old world where I used to be, but I'm not completely in the new world, which is like full of possibility and all that, you know. But each day we break the chains of these things, and
we do.
There's almost this sense in humanity that, especially in England, you know, that you've just got to deal with it. There's nothing you can do about it, you know. And I've heard those words from loads of people, and you're thinking to yourself, well, where's that come from, you know? And I do actually know some of that is still coming from the war generation, in which they did just have to deal with it. They did just have to get on with it, and whatever, you know, beggars couldn't be choosers, because, you know, they had a difficult time and all that. So you see what I mean? These patterns have gone down to the next generation. It's like, well, it's not relevant to our generation.
That's
you know?
right.
We need to be making our own reality, you know, and all it is that the trauma from those experiences is still within the psyche, because no one deals with trauma properly these days, you know, or have done for a long time, you know. But the being on the earth, the being with nature, the having the minimalism, having the clarity, you know, shows you what matters, shows you these patterns, and you can break them rather than being them, you know. But being too caught in society, you know, I know that sounds a bit polarised, my thinking there. Is it
not at all. Don't even think for a second that you need to apologise for having that kind of forward thinking, because it's that kind of strength of character that you're expressing, again, that's going to empower others. They have to kind of come to grips with, there's just no more, you know what, there's no more dress rehearsal, right? There is no more, I need to try to get it right. You had your chance. You all had your chance. And these planets are now, and they're now, you know, they're accumulating their energies. They're basically intensifying everything that's happening outside of the time-bound reality and bringing it into the physical kind of manifestation of our daily lives. There's no more dress rehearsal. This is it. You know, you gotta get into it. You gotta get into the flow. You gotta realise that it's all up to you, you know? And this is what the ancients ultimately, because I know you love to talk about the depth of the ancient knowledge and how it's now becoming really, you know, quite widespread in the modern meta language, right? We're starting to kind of experience it more and more, is that they went through their own process of self-authorization and realizing that, you know, they were birthing every morning and they were dying at night. And waking the next day and thinking, hang on, I've learned something from that death. Now I'm rebirthing, so I'll take that through the cosmic gateway this time around, and that's going to empower my situation. Oh, look at that. I still got dragged back into the pattern. Now I've got to die again.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's the other thing. You're out there, you know, you're out there in nature, like the way they live, and you're seeing life and death all the time, right in your face. You can't deny.
That's right.
That everything has its ending, and for something else to be reborn. You go into society's normal world, and what you see is holding on to everything. You know, companies that are supposed to last thousands of years. You know, like solid structures that we're trying to create out of. I mean, you know, the whole thing's debatable about structure in general, but we can at least say that, you know, structures that come from an unhealthy need to dominate or control or whatever they are, there's no place for that anymore, you know.
No.
And the energy which you're coming forward with when you're saying, you know, there's no time for complacency and all this is, that's not just relevant to our lives. What you're saying there is relevant to, that's a message coming from Mother Earth herself. You know, there is no time for messing around, you know, like what's that word, tipping of the fourth bowl?
The tipping of the fourth bowl, the fourth extinction.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, come on, mate, let's get this together, you know.
Well, we got no time. That's the thing, you know. We've been talking about it now for about a year and a half. That, you know, there's an urgency there. There's a need to integrate and accelerate and move past the mutant paradigm of the duality framework and realise that we're all really experiencing the higher density of our multidimensional selves. That's what we're feeling, right? But we're not dealing with it. We're not handling it. We're not allowing ourselves to, you know, morph into this higher and better version of ourselves. And that's what I hope these podcasts, these live streams, ultimately work a little towards changing. Because you're hearing a couple of people who very, you know, openly admitted that we don't have any credentials. You just got to remember that, right? We didn't go to school to learn esoteric understanding or medical healing practices or understanding, you know, quantum mechanics or whatever. This all comes to me personally in my dreaming. You know, I'm immersed in a beautiful kind of unencumbered classroom of learning where knowledge is imparted and then it's created in a manner to be implemented into my life. And then I share that with people like Riki and Mark and Greg and Shannon and other people that are part of the team, and we all go through our own individual experiences but arrive back at the same collective, you know, understanding of where we're at.
Yeah, we do.
That's awesome.
That's about, really. And I like that because, you know, we've all got our individualism on the planet, you know, and it's interesting because in some sort of spiritual circles it could be like as if, you know, we're just supposed to be totally all one and not have that, you know, and that's not the point. It's the deepest level, we're all connected, you know, but we are here to express, you know, the individual energy of what it, you know, that's the beauty of life, you know, is to express that. And wow, I mean, you know, once people are through what holds them back, the world they see is almost, you can't, your heart's just going to burst because you're like,
yep, good point.
You know, your heart's going to burst because you just feel like amazed at everything, at reality and the grandness of it all. I mean, I've had moments like that, you know, and that's an inspiration to help you even go to even higher levels, you know, and I need to take that on as I'm saying that, because I need to realise, you know, because I had an experience in my past. It was like, again, it was like, oh well, you know, it just happens, you know, you don't have your dad around, you know, and you grow up without your mum and, you know, whatever. And it's not to have a sob story, it's to try and say that that became my reality, you know, to have that disappointment, to automatically feel disappointed and or to not expect the best, you know, to not expect the best. But that was the pattern that became so believable because of what had happened that I, you know, so now when people would say something to me about, you know, like, so how do you feel about that? You know, what do you think about the possibility of this? And I'll be like, I don't know. Like a sigh. You know,
dude,
like,
sometimes we just have to...
You know, like,
sometimes we just have to have a rant, right? Sometimes we just gotta basically have a blurt and a purge. And a lot of us are suppressing even that. We're not allowing ourselves to purge the toxins, to detoxify, you know, our already toxified body grid. We're just not allowing ourselves the freedom to be who we are because we're so wrapped up in the clutter, right? We're so wrapped up in our stuff. And I'm loving that it's born down to that sort of a simple outlook, right? Too much stuff, too much, you know, wrapped up in it, and not enough immersive. That's one of the things that particular opus, you know, was about. It was the sequence of immersive expression. You know, we are becoming the effectors of our lives and no longer being the affected, right? We've always been, as a species, subservient to the archetypes and our belief structures and the way that we've been, you know, taught to experience our lives through, you know, control programs and whatever. That means being affected, right? Being affected. But then, all of a sudden, massive, you know, light bulb moment, huge clarity, huge illumination. Wait a minute. I have the ability to be the effector, right? I can be the one that brings the higher effect to my earthly and worldly experience. And that's something nobody's talking about, right? Because that is reflected in what is known as immersive expression, right? To be, you know, drawn inward to express outward. Why? How's that one?
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, what we are seeing in culture and people all over the world, because of the internet, like, we are seeing that, for one, people are bringing forward different ideas. You know, they're bringing through more of their expression, not maybe to the level you're saying there, you know, but so that is happening very slowly. You know, we're becoming the creators rather than, you know, just the whole Hollywood, you know, and the influence that we're supposed to sort of take on being so big and almighty. And, you know, we are the gods, really, you know, that's the thing. And that's said humbly. It's not like as if I need to be I control the universe, but more like, you know, we're the gods of our own reality. And moving into this creative space is very important because we need the energy and soul of all the people on the planet. You know, we need them to be in their bright light, to be shining that light, to be whatever feeds their passions, you know, because that's what moves the energy and the energy of conformity and all that, and, you know, has been very stagnant for a long time, and that in itself has been like a sort of vortex that you get caught in, you know, when you go to a certain place where the agenda's so strongly, you know, wrapped up in delusion for one, but, you know, wrapped up in a negative mindset. You know, you can easily get pulled into it.
Yeah, man. Totally, dude. Totally.
you know, we need to be able to have a core sense of who we are, but not as an identity necessarily, but more as a sense of beingness, you know, a sense of, you know, what am I as a soul, you know, so that you know, well, that's the truth of me, you know, that the truth of me is this, and that way you can stand in your truth with integrity, you know, not be so swayed by the winds and the gusts of the outer world, which ultimately, if you can come to a place like that, let me know the answers. No.
Look,
no.
That's brilliant.
No, we're getting a good picture, you know, as to what these things are, and there's so much, there's so much to it, and you know, it's about being authentic, you know, speaking of truth to people, not wearing that mask, because that mask only gets you into trouble.
Yep.
You know, it's about moving through this reality in a very real way, and trusting in life that if you do that, the universe will reward you, but you're not even looking for rewards because you're not even that bothered about that anymore. You know what I mean? That's like,
exactly.
Wow, I'm not even bothered about what the outcome is because I'm enjoying the ride.
Well, guess what, Ricky? You've just hit the absolute nail on the head, and if you want, we can go a little bit harder now, even though it's nearly 5 o'clock in the morning here, but you have just literally said that this is all reflected in the new expression of language.
Yeah, a new understanding, and it's clearly being able to understand that there's certain aspects of life and certain ways in which, if you follow those ways, which I know sounds weird, like we're saying, you know, you've got to follow a certain way, but it's following your heart, obviously, number one, but there are certain factors that have been written down through all the ages, you know, through the tribal people, through the Bible, all of them, and there's core principles and understanding, laws of nature, I suppose.
Yeah, man.
And those laws are, you know, I mean, I can't say them all right now, but like that, you know, like speaking the truth, because speaking the truth allows spirit to flow. It allows the energy of the universe to work with you. The moment you tell the lies, you block reality. So that's one example of it. But go on, Mike. That's
well, look, yeah. Well, language, right, is essentially being suppressed and is creating a distorted outlook through the way that, you know, we express ourselves to each other, right? Because we're constantly drawing from the ancient wall these masks. And we're wearing these masks, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 a day, in order to really kind of live the masquerade, right? The fugazi, I like to call it, of being, you know, a representation of false ego. That's what the language of the mind, that's what the old form of expression was really about. It allowed us to use that masquerade to kind of mask our vulnerabilities. And that's what the internet has created and amplified more than anything. It's magnified that delusion that we can be and we can pretend to be all these things that we know in our hearts we're not. And that's creating a really, really bad flow of karma around us.
I agree. It's about manipulating our reality as well.
Totally do. Absolutely, man. And it's worth a good cack too, you know. You can laugh about it because it's so ridiculously stupid on behalf of our species to think this way, not only to think this way, but to act this way. And then all of a sudden we realise, well, hang on, the language of the mind keeps us always collapsing into the particle of fear-embodied action and reality. What happens if all of a sudden we move out of that and define ourselves or redefine ourselves in the language of unity? Now that's the discussion I really want to have with the world, right? That's what I believe our trip coming up to going to Peru, the work we're going to be doing over there, we can't go into detail about it now, but going to that absolute core center of Mother Earth, our planet Earth, to do this work and to allow this language of unity to be expressed through the highest octave of our music, and that is going to be the reflection of our self-expression, right? That is really what's going to be the game changer. Talk about who controls the game. We will, because we're defining this new language of unity and we're allowing it to become our everyday speak. We're going to speak it, right? We're going to be it, we're going to act it, and we're going to express it through compassionate strength, and even through that, you know, that new definition of the so-called Love 3.0. Now, what do you think about that, young man?
That's like yeah, I mean, everything what you're saying is great. I mean, obviously, you know, I see the possibilities in that, and there's much possibility in music, especially if you're coming from your heart and you're aligned to a higher goal, because that's, you know, people come together, true intention. You know, it's got to be true intent, and then the universe is willing to work with you. You know, so, but you know, the minimalism in a way comes into that, because what you're doing is you're decluttering all of those things in life, not just in the physical world, but all those concepts and understandings which don't really hit the nail on the head. You know. And then you're allowing the language to be clear.
Yep.
You know, the language to be absolutely clear. So, you know, miscommunication and misunderstanding can't be there. We understand what we're on about. You know, we understand each other is what we want. You know, so that there's a simplicity in the language. You know, and yet it's deep at the same time.
well, look at the natives, the tribal natives of the Kalahari, right? They used clicking noises.
Wow.
They just used clicking noises. There wasn't one single syllable or phonetic, you know, noun, pronoun, verb, or whatever. They just used clicking noises, and they could understand each other perfectly. Because they weren't, you know, there wasn't any sort of, you know, extension of a kind of an agenda to it, was there? There was just like, hey, you know, go to the damn thing and get water, right, so I can wash the fish.
I know. That's bloody simplicity, isn't it, you know?
You know,
I mean,
like,
you know, seriously, if I was ever in that situation, because you know me, I've been out in the wild, but not like that, not like, you know, a month out there, totally living from, you know, the wild animals or the plants. You know, that is immersive experience. You know, an immersive experience is what, you know, shapes our reality, not just the, as we say, you know, the thoughts or the ideas of things and the wisdom, but the actual experiential getting out there, doing it, and coming out having learnt something so well that you can't, you know, you can't even fall back into your own patterns, because the experience you had was so real and true that you're not going to let yourself fall back into the old patterns and ways of life.
Absolutely. Perfectly said again, man. Immersive experience is the very basis of the new meta language, right? This language that is part of this media that's become self-aware. Directors who are making movies and shows, you know, because let's face it, Netflix now produces anything up to something like 3,500 shows a year. They're not giving away what they're all about. They're creating a new level of mystery, right? And they're presenting a kind of like, well, hang on, here's my idea, right? It's called the Dark Crystal. It's a whole bunch of puppets running around in this idyllic world that's being manipulated by a control agenda, and it's a perfect mirror to where, you know, mankind and humanity is in the construct of now, in the concept of now. But the director's not going to tell you that. He's not going to, you know, spell it out for you. You've got to use your discernment. You've got to use your higher sense of imagination to look at that and go, hang on a minute, that looks like my suburb. It's just got a lot of funky creatures running around instead of men, women and children, right? I love it because it's really, you know, it's exciting. It's part of the new dynamic filter through which we can look and we can perceive and experience immersively this beautiful life that, you know, God and the higher octaves of connection to our divine beingness is all about, and I just love that more than anything, man. It's a shame people don't get it, but, still.
Yeah, I mean, this just brings me, I don't know why, to the fact that, there's a way of working with the universe that we sort of, as humanity, we forgot how to work with the universe.
Yeah.
And that is part of this new language. It's like the new language understands, it's almost as if it's aligned with the laws of nature. So you can't really go wrong with it because you follow that and it brings you into goodness, into alignment with the truth of life. Whereas the delusional language, the following those paths, they lead into, more chaos and isolation and disconnection. So, it's very understandable that the language needs shifting to much better represent a deeper understanding of life, because the current language we have mainly works well with the practical world, and even then it gets, we get in a...
Exactly, it's still part of the mutant paradigm of the old world system. Look at rainbow communities, look at these off-grid communities today. They're starting to really, really sort of, expand that new language, right? Because they're calling themselves men and women of the new soil, right? Of the living, men and women of the living soil. So they realize that their whole essence, their whole core being comes from Earth itself.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And I had a guy reach out to me through FaceShit, basically who runs one of these rainbow communities in Italy, and said that, the opportunity to come for an immersive experience and be in the same headspace as a whole lot of people that aren't attaching to agendas, that aren't basically, wrapped up in constantly being subservient to their screens and their smartphones, and that you're welcome, come and perform, come and raise the vibration, even if it's for a day or a night. That's what I'm talking about. That's the immersive experience. Come and feel it and be it for yourself.
Yeah, because I feel like there is a general sort of energy, especially across the UK, but I know it's Europe, I've felt it too. And wherever you go, it's slightly different in the different cultures and peoples, but there is a general energy of consumerism and the same old program, and even the Pleiadian message, which I always found interesting.
Yes, definitely.
I liked that, and they were saying, humanity's been on the same sort of program for eons, But this is the point, like, with this new language, or just the coming together of souls who are on that wavelength for a higher purpose. They're allowing energy to shift. They're allowing life to be different. They're open to the idea of things being different. And guess what happens when you do that,
Yeah, exactly.
Different experiences come.
Everything. You draw, you find that what ends up happening, I mean, this is what I love about when you isolate the personality from the thought construct. Remember, it's the thought construct, it's the preference system that you choose in your mainframe, which is, your AI transhumanism, if you like, sending these impulses, electrical impulses, to the physical part of self, to kind of, express it. But the thing that's becoming, is incredibly clear about that is to see just how much we're being able to draw event streams from the future, because we're not attached to what the personality is expressing anymore, right? And we're not falling into that kind of slave-like pattern of what, mind and thought is about. We're able to identify things that, yep, this is working for me. I want more of this. I'm going to draw this event stream from the future and into the now, and I'm going to solidify that. I'm going to stabilize it, and I'm going to allow that to be nurtured with real love and compassion in my heart. And then I'm going to recalibrate and re-express that in the external, right? Because I've already processed it from within my heart space, right? Nurtured and nourished it within my heart, and now I'm going to express it in the external. And that is exactly, what redefining what the human blueprint, what the genetic template is all about, what the new activated DNA light body is all about. It's the way that we use this new language to express ourselves.
Yeah, so what we're talking about there is really trying to get yourself together so that you've got the minimalism in your life, that you can see what you actually need and what you don't.
Yeah.
Then you know what you need, which a lot of people don't know what they need in this world, as we can see. And also when people don't know what they need, they're more easily open to like, oh well, I'll just do whatever, I'll just play football, or not saying playing football is not good. Like do something that they know isn't really what they want to do. So many people don't know what they want. And it's like, so yeah, what we're saying here, then you know what you want, and as soon as you put steps towards that, the universe listens and says, right, okay, he's decided to go down this path. Okay, let's manifest these people into his that will support that path. But when you don't know, you haven't made that decision, you're in limbo, and you haven't opened yourself up to that timeline. You haven't. It's almost like the energy of reality itself shifts depending on what you're aligning to. Are you going to align to, I'm just going to go down the pub every night and just, because I don't know what I'm doing in my life, I'm just going to drink? Or are you going to realise that, well, actually, these more healthy decisions probably will lead me to knowing what I need. They'll lead me to something.
Absolutely. Big. Oh, look, I think we wrap up definitely, because it's like ridiculous time over here, man. I know it's still normal over there, but seriously, have we got any online with us, or they've gone? If you want a copy of the full live stream, unabashed with all its technical problems and whatever else it is, then just share your email address there in the chat window, and we'll make a note of it and we'll send it. And we don't do anything more than just send you a low-res MP3, and that's it, okay? We don't keep your email address for any reason, because frankly, we don't need it.
Yeah, thanks to everyone, and I'm sure certain aspects of this resonated, and we're definitely dedicated to keeping on with this. So, next week we might even have half week podcast as well, or something extra, but we'll see. I might start doing something as well. So, thanks a lot to everyone, and you stay on with me, Mike, yeah?
Yeah, I'll stay on and just let everybody know that we're sending our blessings, right? We're sending, resilience, okay? Perseverance, tenacity, to realise that the clutter in your life doesn't help you any. So we hope that you can rise above any misconceptions that you have, and we send you strong waves of compassionate strength.
Indeed, thanks, Mike. Much love, and back next week.
Yeah, catch you next week, guys.